made some really crazy design decisions in games like Metal Gear Solid, where there are what was it? I think it was, which was the one where you had to take the disc out and like put it in upside down or something?
That was the first one.
Yeah, you had to change the, okay, back when controllers had wires, you had to take it out of the first player slot and put it into the second player slot. And that was how you got through this like Psycho Mantis thing. Like, it was nuts. And then there's on the Nintendo DS, it has a little microphone right there, and you would blow into it, and it would make it would use the sound. You know, your microphone is also a speaker, and vice versa. And so when you blow into it, it would create a signal that the game could use to say, oh, it's reached that threshold of crazy noise. Let me do something to it now. And that was such an interesting interaction input. And so when games are doing things with interactions that are outside of like the normal control scheme, or like there was a game called like Two Brothers or something like that, and it was about like people trying to play the game together. Whenever like Awesome Games Done Quick does things where they'll show like somebody trying to play a game with like a banana hooked up to electrodes, I'm like, yeah, let's just ship that game. Sounds fun. I like those a lot.
I really like that answer, and like something this says to me is kind of like leading up into the next question, which is like, where does UX end and design start? Or not even design, other things like programming, like art. Like you mentioned with the Psycho Mantis example, that character was supposed to be like kind of just off the charts, like weird, strange. And so their design goal for that encounter was obviously like to make a strange, memorable, novel experience.
Yep.
And so they said, we could use buttons. We want you to actually like physically get up and change the way that you interact with this artifact.
Yeah.
And so like having a clear design goal, building that into the UX is super cool. So that's definitely something.
Yeah, and I don't think it does end. It's too hard to say. I couldn't say.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of what I've learned from you is presenting things to people, right?
Yeah.
It's thinking about an issue critically.
Yep.
Coming up with a very good schema of looking at it, how I'm going to approach this, but then also like convincing team members that we should do this thing.
Yeah. There's a guy named Mike Monteiro who says that if you don't present your design, you're not the designer. And so that has to do with just, expressing vision and showing, like, this was what I meant when I did that. And so one of the things that I just finished doing for my team back at Nat Geo was creating a keynote template that they have to use when they present their designs. And one of the things that it says in there, which after some learning from interviewing, I say to my designers, what are your pain points? They say, well, in a design review, people tend to start talking about the content. And as a designer, I'm like, I don't control what goes in there. I just do like some of the layout. And so what we did in this keynote template is, well, first off, I always tell them, put the person who you're presenting to, put their name over here, because more often than not, people are like, oh, it's my name. I'm kind of vain about things, and so I like to see my name. And then over here, it says what we need today. And then down here, it says, how did I phrase it? I didn't want to say like, basically what this means is like what I want, what I don't want. So the second one was like next steps, next steps is a really nice way of saying like the things we'll talk about next time, not today. And so, when they present their design, this is going to help drive the conversation towards what they really need to hear. And then up at the very top was goals, and the goals I split out into user goals, business goals, and technology goals. And the technology goals might be things like use React or make use of